Okay, hey guys, Sam back with you here on Tuesday, October 2nd. Again, by request from our members, look at the Aussie dollar to the Canadian dollar. All right, so this is, you consider this somewhat of an exotic cross spread here. So looking at this, so I've got a 3-day chart up here, right? Which I like to start, and I always encourage you to consider long term. So there's not an Elliott count that's just screaming at you here. As you can look at this, could we dig an Elliott count out of this? Yeah, we can get a count on it. But I wouldn't if it's not obvious. I don't. Sometimes I will just defer to the fib swings and the larger degree geometry of the market here rather than try and force some sort of a bizarre count with double combination. I don't know that helps us here. But if we look here, just doing the absolute bare minimum here, well, we can look from this 2008 low. You could say that we're in some sort of a range here as we come back down to this level of support here. We've been here a few times, and we have this pretty well established range up here. If we bring that down a tad here. So we're in a range now. So one thought is here we're at the lower end of the range, so it's proven to be a good place to be a buyer here. I wouldn't be just that blind with it here because I don't think as I recall, we're not quite to the 50 here. So if I look here from my swing low to my swing high here, approaching the 50. So I wouldn't be a buyer here just because we've been down here before. I would need more than that. One thing I will say here that I do notice that just kind of with our Elliott hats on, but just trying to get clear on just the basics of it. So basic principle, right? We trend in 5s, we correct in 3s. Well, I can see a whole lot of 3s here. So this ABC, pretty obvious, right? And we get this one here, ABC here, ABC. It's right. So the impulses seem to be lower. The 3 waves seem to be corrective. You have this as well here, so you can make a case for this being an ABC. So you could have an A, B, C, B, and then back down here for a C. You've got a lot of 3-wave structure. You could make the same case here that you had an ABC going in yet again. So you'd have ABC, A, B, C going in. So there's a lack of any impulsive movement, just a lot of corrective 3 waves, right? So up and down. So the 50 coming down to this 50 is worth paying attention to. I wouldn't be sitting there with an open order ready to buy it. Just looking here, trying to put that in context. Well, ABC, ABC, ABC. So this now look, we have the potential here for this to get into some sort of a motive. Is it look here? It looks like we've got 1, 2. So that looks like that may well be technical. So pulling from this pivot here, right to my low here. So a couple of wicks through the 50. We're through the first target. So potentially now, since we're through that and approaching second, this would be, we know this is shorthand for our 1618. So we have a candidate here to break out of this 3-wave structure and get a motive wave started. So maybe there's a 3 down here. We don't know where that would end. So let me get that down to a lower degree. We can go sub-micro there. Okay, so whoops, possibly now that's a 1, 2. We'd be looking for the 3 down here, 4, 5. So let me get this down here. Let's get this. That's just a guess. Again, I'm trying to get this degree down. Let's go to sub-micro. Okay. All right, so if that's 1, 2, so we do just standard ops here. If that's a good 1 and we have a solid 2, we know it went at least 50%. Here's the range we're looking for a 3rd, 4, 5, maybe down here towards the 2618. So you're kind of problematic here. You certainly wouldn't want to be a buyer here just yet. With the potential trend for this. So where would be the next trade? I wouldn't be a seller here right into these prior lows here. I would be looking for continuation of this to bring us down here into this 3rd, and then the next trade that I would see would be here for the 4, looking for the push down into the 5. Right, so until we have this, we have a pivot to work with from here. It's really you're too late to be selling and too soon to be buying. So if you were looking on the buy side, there likely will be a setup here in the B to the C. And again, until we have a pivot here, this is all just hypothetical. We don't know where this goes. But the next solid swing trade here that potentially is setting up is this move down here. So let's put that whole thing in context. So if I go from this, Well, one thing I wanted to show you here, we know this is trades technically. We know algos are in here, right? As in with any FX pair. So front run on the 50, they get to target. So we know they're in here. So now we look at this and we think, okay, where could they kick in? Where would they be playing defense, right? Does that line up with what we're seeing here? And we have potentially now, we're just all hypothetical here, right? But this potentially becomes a roadmap we could work with that laid out, right? So we want to lay out a potential path so that if we have it right and we see it follow this course, well, then we've already laid it out. We know what we're looking for. So right now, the most probable course of action here would be a move down here if this is going to go impulsive. All right, now we could pivot here. We would certainly be long enough. But you know, this gets my attention here. So then is there anything else we might look for to line this up? Well, that's kind of interesting. So secondary pivot, although that seems less likely considering it looks like it was used much before. So here's the 618 to the target, right? So there's a great example of confluence. Now there's confluence on a 3-day chart. Look at this. All right, so if we go here, it's here to here. Look at that. So the 50 and the 618 are literally on top of each other. Right, that's a must take right there. So that's June of 2010, and they first get to target here in June of 2011. So that's a year-long trade, right? Now, again, as I try to tell you, they're incredibly technical, but it's a much different time frame of trading. So just so you know, it's always good to get that reinforcement. Okay, we know algos are in here. We know what they did last. Now, take note of this. There is no algo working with us on the short side because if we go to the absolute high to this double bottom, whichever low you use, we've already broken through the 65 on both sides. So we don't have an algo that would be working with us on the short side on this longer degree, with the exception of this. The last algo sell is right here. So let me go from the 3-day to the daily so that we can see this, right? So let me pull this off here. So here was the 2 wave. So from the daily, just pulling from this pivot here down to my 1. So here's right where we're looking for that 2, 50 to the 618. That's the kill zone. That's right where we're looking for it to and through that target. So potentially now, if this is going to play as a 1-2 and we're in an impulsive move down here, which certainly looks that way, if we're in an impulsive move down here, well, we know what our targets are. So I would be carefully waiting for that. So just standard ops here, right? So there's our wave 1. Pivot low, right? That would be the invalidation point, right? So of course we could have a diagonal, but as we get up that far, looks less and less likely to be trading as a 4, considering the depth of that. So right now, we got to wait for a 3. Right? So again, too late to sell it, too soon to be a buyer. I would just be kind of tracking this. And I'd check back to it. So this is not a bad place to put an alert. So if we get down here to this area, knowing that's going to be very close to the 1618 zone, I'd put an alert here so I'm notified if I get a good pivot here, if I get a reaction. But the next trade that I would be looking for here is the 4 into the 5. Right? So stay aligned with what algos are doing. Here's the last one we can identify, already hit target, but still moving through it. So if we come back up, so what we'd be looking for, so just for the sake of discussion, if we pivot here, big if, emphasis word if we pivot there, then we just pull from the 2 if that were to be our 3, right? Looking for the next 50 or the wave 4, we know wave 4 between the 23 and the 38 is the most likely place to find it, right? That's the highest probability. So this is somewhat of a function of what kind of swing relationship we see between the A and the B and the C here, right? And can we dig out a clean 5 in that C to give us a setup for the 4? And it's certainly possible that we pivot here at the 38 with that target there. So, you know, those are the kind of things to keep in mind. Where are we looking for those probability zones? So again, without enough information here, we're too soon to really make any kind of a call here. First thing we got to do is get a pivot for the 3. But that's what I see here. That's how I would approach this. This is the last thing we can identify as an algo play. So the next thing we'd be looking at is if it starts to bounce back, you'd have to check from both pivots. So I'd be pulling there. And then I would also pull from the absolute depending on if and when we get a pivot here for the all the way halfway back. I got to check both of them. So let's see if this continues to come down, give us a pivot, then we're going to have to wait, right? I'm on a daily chart here. We're going to have to wait for this 4 before we can pull the trigger into that potential 5th wave down to complete what this may be an ABC. Right, so that's pretty much how this looks. We know that that would be, so if I put this all back together and go back to my 3-day, right, and we get this here, so then we'd be looking for this right in that golden zone here, right? So there's the setup here. So the 4 into the 5 is the next big trade that's potentially there waiting to happen, but that's gonna that could be several months away before we get through this move and this move to set up for that sell. So it's one to have on your radar, one to watch. There's nothing there to jump on at the moment, but certainly we know it's technical, and we have the first break now of a potential motive wave coming out of all of this chop. All right, guys, just a reminder, want to learn how to do this? Give us a visit over on TradeDevils.com. You can always explore more. If you have questions, write us. Let us know what you're thinking. Right? You will always get a reply from us. And you can give us a follow on Twitter, where we poll regularly to let our Twitter followers give us some ideas of what you'd like to see reviewed. And we've got our free Discord as well. You can find that pinned on our Twitter channel if you're interested in just getting a toe into the water over there and see what some of the engagement is like and interact with some of our senseis. All right, guys, I've got one more to do today. Back to you shortly.